We can end crime and violence if we all agree to do one thing: share. Let's share our wisdom, share our time, share our talents, share our finances, but most of all, let's share our love. This is the Female Solution.
For the sign of the times, pay attention, don't you hear the cry? It's a brand new day, it's good to be alive. You have survived, ain't it good to be alive? Don't it feel real good? Don't it feel real good to be alive? Good morning, good morning, good morning. Wow, we have made it through to another Friday morning. Coffee break with Senabella and all you wonderful people who I refer to as coffee breakers. Now, I sure do know that everybody doesn't get up and drink coffee in the morning. And so for those who are sipping water and tea, good morning and good morning and good morning to you. Now, we're talking about love today. So one of the things that I want to share with you is this cup. My daughter Naseem sent this to me, and on it are the hands and the names of my children. One of the finest gifts that you can receive from someone when they realize that what's important to you is important to them as well. And so when she sent it, it has on it John, Nafisha, Hakeem, Naseem, and Mama. And that's Senabella right here. And so love does prove itself, and it proves itself in various and sundry ways. So what are some of the ways that love proves itself to you? Does it come through your spirit? Are you looking at it? And you know, the 5 love languages has a very neat layout of how people look at love from the perspective of, say, personal love with someone else. But all of our love is with someone else. And so it can become an even broader mark or opportunity to engage in affirmations of love. And so I put the question out there, and because my guest is not here today, I decided, well, what will I talk about? What's important? And what's always important to me is how people engage with me and how I engage with them. How am I engaging with the world? And am I doing it from a soul perspective? Am I looking at it and enhancing in the spiritual essence of myself? Am I forthwith in my honest conveyance of what I talk about and try to materialize for people? So even as I sit here today in this new studio, I sat here and I thought about, wow, this is the first time I'm opening up another chapter of myself here on the Female Solution, and how important it is for me to make sure that I'm in step with all of my other sisters and brothers. Hey, good morning, Bill. It's so good to see you here with me again. Love Bill Morton, just a dynamic individual. This man, we're going to let you talk, Bill. Make sure you put in some things for me to talk about and share about you, Bill, because I just really love that every morning you come in, and every Friday morning you come in and you make yourself, you know, visible, and you have a voice and you use it well. And so I want to make sure we talk about that because it's acts of service too. Bill Morton, Alderman, Rogers Park, I think now a professor. And so you can help me clear that up, Bill. Let me know. I do kind of keep up with you on Facebook and see things going on. And so that's another acts of service are also recognizing others. When people come into this space with me, I recognize you differently than I would have, say, earlier, because now you're showing me support in a very visible manner. And so for me, it ups the ante in what it is that I am, what I'm saying, what I'm doing, and what I have to give to you. So, what are some of those things that I feel that I have to give to you? And I'm going to set it back just a little bit. I'm talking about who I have been in my life that I see myself as, that causes me to be a loving human being. What are some of the things that I do in order to instruct myself to always put myself on a parade of fashion of my inner working self, my inner self, the working parts of me that materialize the essence of who I am and the essence of my love. So when I was a young girl, and we'll slow down just a step, and you can see in the back, there's this image, if you can see it, and it's my mom at the top. And my mother was a figure and a role model, not only for me, but our community, but more importantly, for her children. And before she died, years before she died, I said, Mom, Mom, Mom. And she says, what, baby? And it wasn't that long ago. And I want to say I'm a very much of a grown woman by this point. I'm a grown mother. I'm a mother and a grandmother at this point. And as it is with your mom, you're always a kid when you see them and a child of theirs. Or you're the arrogant, I'm grown and I can do what I want to do, say what I want to say, and go where I want to go. And so on this particular evening, she was lounging on her sofa and I was there with her visiting as normal. And I said, Mom, when you're no longer here, what do you want people to say about you? And she says, let me think about that. I said, what do you mean that you think about it? She says, well, I like for people to know that I was a mother. Now, for me, you know how we see our parents. And if they do anything outside of us, that's a big deal. So for me, I was like, well, Mom, are you saying you don't want people to know that how many people you've served and how much you've done for this world and all of that? And she says, no, I just want them to know that I'm a mother. Being a mother, you would have thought at that time that I would have been like, yeah, now that's a consequence of real service and that's a real big act. But at that time, I wanted my mother to be celebrated. When people pass, we want them to be celebrated. It's when we stop and we think about the proof of love, right? So love proves itself in death. But why does it happen then that we become aware of the things that that person has been or is with us and what will be missed about them? And so for me, I wanted my mother to be celebrated as Sister Valerita, the great sister who worked with Dick Gregory and all of the great people all around Chicago, how she gave so much back to her outside of her home community. And yet my mother had 16 kids and only had 14, and 14 of us were raised in the house together. And this dynamic individual who set a whole commitment up of how to raise us, teaching us these wonderful dynamic things every day. How to read, how to write. Yes, we went to school. We had learned all that. And she put us in the best situations we could be in. But my mother took it upon herself to make sure that her children were homeschooled after school. And everything was up for grabs. Everything. So we'd come in from school and the music would be playing and she'd calm us down. And we know we had to get ready to go have dinner and eat at the tables together because there were so many of us. It was 3 tables. So it was the one for the little kids, the big kids, and the medium-sized kids or whatever. And I was part of the medium-sized kid group. And then we'd finish and she'd say, okay, come on back. So by that time, we'd already gone over our homework. And she'd sit us down in a circle and she began to talk to us and instruct us and tell us the way we should go. And she would ask us questions and teach us how to respond and articulate our thoughts, make sure our messaging was right. And then she would also speak to us about the manner and how we treated one another, and she was always very soft-spoken and kind. And so I had generated this big observation of who my mother has been. And I wanted in her passing for people to know that. Well, let me see something. So when my mom passed, it was a big deal to me, to my sisters and brothers. But what we probably didn't realize as much is how big a deal she was to the people at large in the community that she served. My mother went from Catholicism to Islam, and in each community, everyone loved her. People loved her so much her doctor showed up, people that she had just met with. And there was this line at the repast. It was a line of people, almost 200 people in line waiting to get to the podium to say one thing about my mother. And what I think that the takeaway for that was for me was when I realized that they were speaking of her even in a greater sense in how I knew her. So love was proving itself. Her love to the community and the people she cared about and her children. You know, it's all there. Hello, good morning, Lawrence Lenoir. Let's talk about our circumcision of the heart through self-reflection one day. Okay, Lawrence, you want to, get into that a little bit today? I'd love to hear it. Aaron Johnson, the beauty of real love proves itself over time. Yes, within the context of each individual personal experience, the beauty of iron sharpening iron. Oh my God. So that is what I'm saying. So here I am witnessing iron sharpening iron. And my mother was just seriously committed to community. So that impacted me. And she was my beautiful heroine. And every day I went to school and people would say, well, write about the person or thing that impacts you the most. And I always said my mother. I didn't care what day or time it was. It was my mother, my mother, my mother. Now my father, let's get to him. My father was a kind individual. He was kind and he was soft-hearted. He was easy to cry and he had a beautiful voice. And when he spoke, he had presence. But his mannerisms were always gentle and always kind. So they were impacting us with the essence of their spirits, of their physicality, of their work and what they did. Here my mother was going back to school with all her children, going back to school to Columbia College. Here my mother was learning about the future of computerization and taking up that so that she could get work. And here my father was working in steel mills and shining shoes and doing all the things he could to care for his family. So we do become learned and have the instruction of love to guide us there. I want to go back to something that's been said already. Lauren said, let's talk about our circumcision of the heart through self-reflection one day. Is that not it, Lawrence? What do you think? Is this not what I'm saying? Can you share more of that reflection in your text? Can you do that? And then Aaron Johnson, the beauty of real love proves itself over time. So why do we wait for people to die to give them their greatest accolades? Within the context of each individual personal experience, the beauty of iron sharpening iron. So am I the iron sharpened as a result of my mother's beauty? And how am I sure in my living that I'm sharpening the iron of mine or my community? And so in my mind, as I became, yes, it is. Thank you, Lawrence. That's so important for me to know. I'm going to set up the phone situation so that next time I have a show like this, people can call in. I would love to hear your voice. I'm really big on voices. I love to hear the sound of a person's voice, to see and know and understand and hear the context of what they mean. So I'm going to make sure I do that. But words are important. So my mother read to us a lot. And my mother spoke to us all the time. And my mother, she didn't speak loud ever. And she was definitely in charge of everything. In charge of everything. But I think that when we grow, if we grow into a society, we have to have the essence of things that comes out of our homes that help us to thrive, to strive, to endure, to know how to deposit that which is in us that is of love, that spirit, that essence. It becomes a very real thing in everything we do. How we walk, how we talk, how we engage with other people. What is it that brings love into our lives every day, that makes us real to other people? And so because I had this example in my home of what love was supposed to be or is, I began to journey out on my own in my life as a mother, and in the sacrifices that we'll make, not just as parents, but as people in the community, because there are so many sacrifices we can make that are love offerings every single day, every single day. And right now, with the world being turned upside down for change, which is inevitable, the world was going to change whether there was somebody causing it to change or not. I'm going to say it again. The world was going to change whether somebody was causing it to change or not. It is not upon the evidence of the wrong or the right that the world changes. The world changes out of need, just like seasons change, just like the sun is in the sky, the moon is in the sky, the water is where it is, the dirt, everything around us is all part of the organic matter of who we are in our lives. And for some of us, most of us would say, so God loves us and he gave us this earth. We have dominion over it. Do we? Are we really the higher living being that exists in this planet? God loves us so much that he let us just have this dominion in this way. How are we using that as an instruction? So one friend of mine told me, Bobby Irving, he said, Senabella, a long time ago, he said, the trees and the flowers and everything, they can feel us, they know us. And so he talked about talking to trees. And I just looked at him like, okay, that might be a little way up here for me, but I'm going to keep listening. But over time, I could see the essence of what he said was true. And I put up a video not long ago, and I said, you could pour love into your plant, and this is how we can pour love into one another. So how does that look? So I do little things, but at the end of the day, the things that I do become important to me because I want to make sure that my children and their children and their children and their children can be ready for whatever change comes about in life. To be ready for whatever change comes about in life so that you can resolve and move forward with whatever you have to do. Because we don't know all the time what we have to do. But when we're at peace with ourselves, when we know that love is a true essence, that it does exist, that it is here, then what we can do then is slow down a little bit and see what our offerings are. Now, every day, television, books, and every person that we provide us the essence of things that are going on and teaches us something. They talk about Jesus Christ. The talk about Jesus Christ is that he was all about love, right? Everything was about love. Why? Why? It was the medium. It was the driver. If you could just get people to see, if you could just love as you think about being loving through the points of judgment, because everybody wants to judge. But if we're judging something and our viewpoint is different in how we judge it, different in the sense that we're not there to blame or to become so critical that we want to hurt, harm, withhold, take away, keep someone from having something. That's not the same. But when we do it, because our instruction says, I lovingly want to impart my thoughts with this person. So I'll go back in reflection real quick. And my mother, she was quiet and she'd walk past us and we always dodged because we never knew when she was going to slap us in the mouth for something. And she never told us. But she did those things because she wanted us to know that we were present and she could hear us. And she, real quick. And we go, oh my God. And she said, watch your mouth. How many of you have parents say, you better watch what you say? Why was that? Why was that? What was the purpose of that? What was she trying to get us to know? Watch your mouth. How can I watch my mouth? Lawrence Lenoir, I love you. Yes, we can send love vibrations to plant life and receive it. Yes, sir. And he says, this is a round table discussing about love that can go so far down the rabbit hole and get so deep. I love it. Yes, sir. I'm telling you, I got to have that phone call situation. Or maybe what I'll do is have my own round table for a coffee break, and Lawrence, yourself, and others can come and we can chat it up and get into that, because that's what we need to do. Instead of looking at what's wrong, let's look at what's right. How do we put the nail in so that it secures the table? Or do we create grooves for it to fit in the style of fashion of fine furniture making? Instead of using nails that splits wood, they create situations where it fits in. Think about it. Fitting in. Fitting in. Fitting in. Yes, 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 yes. Yes, that's what I'm saying. It is. It's about fitting in. We all desire to fit in. But as I've gotten older, and I guess I can talk older later because there's so much more of what I want to share that has nothing to do with where I'm at right now. But the truth is, where I am right now is what has caused me to talk about this right now. Because I used to be a little bit scared. I was afraid to present myself to people. And I did so because people were constantly judging me all the time. And I couldn't understand why. And as I grew into this world as a young Black girl who was not necessarily dark skinned, who was not necessarily too short or too tall or too, I was being judged for everything. But I didn't understand where that judgment came from. Excuse me. And so later what I would do is I would just quiet down, or I wouldn't show up. I wasn't present. I didn't know how my individual presence was affecting other people and if that meant something. And it took a whole lot for me to one day show up and to confidently be myself. That is when the self-love expression began to formulate inside of me, when the confidence started to formulate inside of me. And I give myself square in the mirror and go, Senabella, it's okay. Go see anyway. Go and see. And no education that you get from formal institutions, no amount of money that you may earn from work or being blessed with it as an inheritance, no kindnesses even that people may give you will impart upon you the greatest aspect of what you will learn when you become confident in the love of self. Confidence will be exuding because now you will choose to go in a room, but you'll choose to go in the room to be a part of the room and not to turn the room around. See, there's a thing where you can be a leader and you can be confident and you may have something to add, but when you go into the room, they'll call it reading the room. Can you read the room? But when you read the room, does it require a voice or require your support? How about that? Does it require your voice or require your support? I'm going to take a quick break and come right back. And I want you to think about that. And please continue to leave your comments. And I'm going to address those. And we're going to talk about that a little bit more. All right?
The Soulful Chicago Book Fair, Woodlawn's premier summer event, returns to 61st Street between Cottage Grove and King Drive, Saturday, August 9th, 10 a.m. to 8 p.m. Join us for another celebration of literary works by and about the Black experience, featuring children's books, fiction books, and non-fiction works by local and international authors. The main stage will host an entertainment lineup second to none, with Pari Lemuel, Aniba and the Soul Stars, and the mesmerizing Moo Moo Fresh. Special guest, DJ Celeste. The community stage features a variety of family-friendly performances, such as DJ sets produced by IC Music, an organization that trains and promotes blind audio engineers. All this and more, Saturday, August 9th, free and open to all. Be there. Visit SoulfulChicagoBookFair.com for more information.
Wow. So right here we have one of the things that implies the giving, the providing of the service, the providing of community, the building of community, the thoughtfulness that is engaged in love. See, when you know how to love yourself, or you're trying to figure out how to love yourself, and you begin to engage in activities outside of yourself that serve something greater than yourself, then the symbolism, the idea, the spiritualism of what we believe in our lives becomes present for us to see. And so through the Soulful Chicago Book Fair, you take that one thought of an engagement of Asada Kirkland saying, I want to provide service of Black authors. Being a Black author myself, where do I go? How do I find my audience? And she creates the audience. And now it's something more than just a nuance, but a reality. And so when you tune into her show here on The Female Solution, you hear the engagement and the conversations of all authors from all over the world, and not just Black, but Black specifically being her target audience she started for, but having more diversity because it's an act of love to provide service, to do something that doesn't just provide service to yourself, but for others. How do we take that and become a reflection of our higher selves to prove love exists? Lawrence, here you are. Jesus didn't try to eliminate the world wars. He just got in where he fit in and created a new reality. Isn't that it? Isn't that what I'm speaking to? And so, yes, it is. And that's what I grew up seeing and knowing was real. I had a brother named Tiamo, and he, from the very youngest of age, 7 years old, went into the store and began to, bag groceries. He could help my mother pay for food. He wanted to do something to be a part of our family that would help to supply something greater than just, say, being at home, being hungry. So at 7, he went across the street and he started bagging groceries. And from that viewpoint, as a small boy, he saw that other people needed food too. And he asked the store owner if he could bag more groceries, stay longer, and he could provide credit like he had gotten for our mother to come to the store and pick up more food for other families. And he grew to become that person over and over again, countless times, over and over again, proving love exists. He didn't know every person, but he knew we lived in a community where there were more people who had need. And so, like Jesus, and like all of our great prophets and all the great people who live around us and within us, all the great mothers and fathers began to see outside of themselves and to start to build another kind of community where people can now imagine what they can do. So when you have examples of things that you have only thought maybe you could do it and you need to see it, then that's what happens. So I'm going to add a couple of things to the stage because I kind of want to talk about it from the point of view that is more expressive. And it's not just about, is it women or men, but it's about how are we loving on each other? What are we doing to show love to one another? And when we do it, how does it fill our cup? And if it fills our cup, have we given all of ourselves away to other people and not given back to ourselves? What are we doing to continue to reload and resupply ourselves, right? When it's all said and done. Too many of us have died too early before enjoying the compliment of so much work. So how do we even change that trajectory? Does death have to be the final symbol of the act of love and kindness and its proof? Does it? Or is it proof in itself? Is it? I need to know. I need to know. We need to discuss it. I think I know, or I wouldn't be having this conversation, right? wouldn't be having this conversation. So I set out in life and I began to look at the instruction inside of me and asking myself, what can I do? And I started meeting and having great mentors, great people who really began to help me to check my boxes. And so this was a situation right here that this person here, Robert Irving III, he and I became joined at the hip because we had family members who come together and created a child. And so I become aware of him, and he and I began to talk about, well, what is it that you want to do, Senabella? And I said, I want to sing. He said, well, I'm getting ready to go to New York. I said, okay. So I said, one day I'm going to play with you. And years later, he's this big guy working with Miles Davis. And I'm fascinated with this idea. And I'm also fascinated with the idea that I might too one day, kind of like sing. So with that being the case, I was like, well, why can't I sing? And so I didn't want to just sing when I got with him, because he was getting up every day, hitting the pavement, doing things bigger than writing music and singing. And he pushed into me, he threw at me like 10 books. Here, read these books. So I started reading them. And then I started watching his behavior. I watched his behavior. He had behavior that was like somebody chasing something, So there's an energy that pops up inside of us to help us to know who we are. There's an energy that says, who we are. Yes, Bill. Yes, 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 yes. There's an energy that tells us who we are. We begin to find the people who are like-minded or who will expand our thinking and help us to become greater at who we are and what we imagine ourselves that we could possibly be. And we connect with those people and we create a community. And we become part of a community that's bigger than ourselves. And we have to imagine and believe that somehow it will take hold, it will hold fast, it would have roots, right? It will become something. And so in this act, people come into our lives. And here was another person, Dr. C. Sidal Weber. We created Universal Alley Jazz together as a second spinoff from Jazz in the Alley. I was part of the board, but his work, his efforts, his timeless mentorship and his timeless giving in the community is really what set the template for me in this next phase. So I was getting all these wonderful people who were teaching me about the proof of love, right? There is a proof of love. And there were people who had come before even Dr. Weber to have the proof of love, even before a Bobby Irving to show the proof of love. Women who were coming together, learning how to love one another and work together and dance and to sing. There is the proof of love. And in our storytelling, there is the proof of love. When we tell our stories, when we share what our situations are, would be, have been, we can find the nuance of love in it. I remember this here storytelling circle, and they talked about catfish fries, how people came together to do fish fries. And in that, the proof of love and community and building and growing together from something as simple as dining together, like my mother had us at the tables, dining together with our family, the proof of love, right? And she said, you don't need to go outside and find friends. We're like, look, if there's one thing I want is my own friend, because I don't want to be just friends with my sister anymore. But she put us at those tables to make us eat together, to clean up together, to wash and do things together, to show the proof of love. Okay, I see somebody has come in the room that I would really love to have here with me to talk about this. This is Sister. She is the proof of love, right? So let me talk about Naima a little bit, because I have such admiration for her. And the truth is that I wouldn't even be here if it weren't for the Asada, a friendship, the beacon, right? There is like a beacon, a spiritual beacon that we become a part of. And we don't even know. It's like the bat light, like the Batman had the light that shone in the sky. Well, we have those little beacons like that. And then when we show up in the room, the other beacons are there. And then when they see you, they're, oh, there's Senabella. Oh, there's Asada. Oh, there's Naima Latif. Oh my God. And then one day you look up and you're sitting at the table with them and you're trying to figure out, wow, how would I have known that this would be my entrance into this or that? And so every person in my life, no matter who they've been, have been somebody that have been an entrance for me to become and to do some work. I didn't just dress up to be here. I had to do things to be here. I had to do some work to be here, to get in that outfit, to be with these people, to be a part of this, to get to this place today. I had to do something. I didn't show up looking like this. I showed up with dirt in my fingernails. I showed up with tired feet, and I showed up with scrambling and calling. I showed up, but in showing up. Good morning, Naima.
Yes. Well, of course, the reason why we have the Female Solution Global Radio TV show all stemmed from the book I wrote entitled The Female Solution, in which I was urging women to develop a relationship between themselves, not of competition and conflict, but of cooperation. Because if we don't do it, we cannot heal the hurt in our communities and in our world. When women have a loving relationship, then we can collectively mother our children, and we can provide a safe and secure environment for them to grow and flourish. But when we're in conflict and we're in a state of self-hatred, then we see the reflection of it in our community. So the book grew into a movement pretty much, and the program, which started out as a radio show, evolved now into radio TV. And we have an opportunity to educate the entire world. Now, right now, I'm on my way, as you all join me. I'm on my way to...
And I love that, Naima. I love that you're in transport and you're giving us some questions. Thank you. That's
I know,
super
the
awesome.
authentic Chicago experience.
Awesome.
But I'm on my way to the Rainbow Push Convention breakfast this morning, and we've been talking about justice. We've been talking about the media, and we've been talking about how we can coalesce so that we can change things, change the hearts of the people. Yesterday, I had a chance to participate in, of course, report live on the protest march downtown as they urged the Target store chain to be more inclusive, more fair. We spend our money there. And the whole thing, it really comes down to love. Do you love each other enough to treat each other fair? Do you love each other enough to provide for each other's needs? Do you love each other enough to provide the kind of community where nobody is homeless, nobody is suffering? We know our sister Zelda goes out and feeds those who are unhoused every week. And this is a mission. There's no reason why, with all of this wealth, that people are living on the street. So there's an absence of love somewhere when we can't give people what they need, and we'll sit there and watch them suffer. And the conversation's been about Tyler Perry's movie Straw, and I guess that's referring to this was just the last straw for her. And she just snapped, a woman with a child and losing her job and her home. And I know so many women that if they just had other women reach out with some help, they would not be slapping and beating their children, because that's really an expression of our frustration when we take it out on our children. We hit them because we're in fear that if they don't hurry up and do what we say we need them to do, then we might lose our job. Hurry up and get to school. Hurry up and do this, and if you don't obey what I say, we do those things because we don't have an outlet for our frustration. We don't have the support, the emotional support, the financial support, the spiritual support that would keep us from being harmful to those who need a loving touch. So this is why we need this sisterhood, and this is why we have to educate for those who don't know any better.
Well, let me ask this.
We have the Female Solution.
Allow me to interject this. You said feed our kids. Now, my mother, when she would hit us, she said, I do this because I love you. I love you. That's what she said at first, and later she wouldn't say it anymore. So is that proof of love And if in fact it is, I'm wondering when and where my mother began to redirect that act because she stopped doing it, right? Something in her instruction changed, but she was good with PDAP. And I know that it was a learned behavior model, right? And at the end of the day, we look at the results of what these type of aggressions have made upon us. And so when we see people who are homeless, going back to the unhoused, which is a really big way to think about love, right? Some people think that they're being loving because they may give them money, but they may not speak to them, right? Some people think that they're being loving because they want them to do better, and they'll say, I'm sorry, I can't help you. So where's the proof of love, right? And so when you talk about where you're going and what you're doing, how you're discussing it, and because right now, probably more than any other time in our lives, in our living lives, not in our parents' lives, they've probably seen some of this before, we're understanding the need for community, unity. Let's discuss this aspect of what's going on. So how do you see inserting yourself in part of that change other than the discussion?
I was raised like most children in our community, you know, parents who were raised with corporal punishment, and at some point you realize that fear-based parenting creates a fearful child that cannot trust because they're always afraid of punishment. You learn to lie to avoid punishment. So many character flaws develop as a result of fear-based parenting, where there's always the threat of getting hit if you don't obey. And so, you know, we've talked about the fact that we're launching a parenting class in our New Earth Homeschool Academy online this fall called Parenting with Peace, to teach parents how to use positive reinforcement, guidance, patience, teaching, and instruction as opposed to punishment as the incentive for their children to do as they desire. And one of the things I've been working with, you know, I've been doing a 60 days of a message called 555, and it was at 5:55 in the morning. Just a little message and a link to another wisdom teacher that has a podcast online, many others that we promoted, but to help us undo the damage in ourselves. We have been so damaged by the hostility in the society that we live in. So we unknowingly pass it on to our children. We feel so disrespected that we will interpret a 2-year-old saying no to us as a sign of disrespect. They're 2. You don't have the concept of disrespect. You can only express your feelings. But because we're so damaged, we will respond to that 2-year-old that's just learning how to express themselves as if they have personally offended and insulted us, and then we want to hit them and beat them, and that's where the injury starts. And we've been talking about a lot, and of course in our book, Slavery, the African American Psychic Trauma, we go into detail about the whole system of punishment, whipping, beating, basically beating the spirit out of you so that you would never stand up for yourself, as a way of, it was a slave breaking kind of punishment that was given so that you would not be rebellious and you would not have an independent spirit. So generations later, we still have that fear in us. The reason why we have such low self-esteem, lacking in confidence, in abusive relationships, because this kind of rearing where you're beaten into submission and told you're nothing as a way to control you, this becomes a part of what we give to our children, and that has to be undone in us as we raise the next generation to be free-thinking people, because they're going to be creating a different society. So instead of us trying to mold them into a broken society, we have to prepare them to create the new world that they're going to be living in, and they and their children are going to be living in. It's not going to be the way it is now. That's why things are falling apart, because this system cannot stand. You can't have a system where you have this extreme of wealth of a small segment of the population and the masses of people suffering.
Well, it does get back to the question, what is the proof of love? And society shows the proof of love or the lack of love, and so we can say that this society has not proven love that we built. And so we have to come back and reconstruct, re-examine where our wrongs are, not just to judge those who are bringing it to us, but also because somehow they've allowed those who are doing it also found ways to love on only theirs, only themselves. But at the same time, when this vast planet that we live on, this here planet we live on, requires something for everyone, it does give us new instruction. It does tell us. And so there has to be action in every community and in every way for the proof of love to not be lost, so that it's not a burden for people to have, that there is no love for me. There's no place for me is what people feel when there's no love. There is no one who wants to hear my voice when there is no love. There's no one who cares about if I'm hungry if there's no love. There's no one who cares about what I feel if there's no love, right? There's no one who cares about whether I have a place to sleep or not if I'm loved. And that happens in small capsules of families and small 2-3 people relationships. People say, I only had 2 friends and they both beat me up or they both put me out. I only had one person I relied on and they weren't there for me when I was sick. We have people who are in nursing homes. We have people, this isn't just about, the world has to change. We have been an abomination to this world. It's our lack of proof of love. When we can take something out of our day, as you're doing right now, Naima, right? As you're doing right now, we can all take something out of our day and put a deposit of love onto this planet. We all can do that. It doesn't require that you are the only person going to get up and hit the bus or transportation and not look for people to get you there, but on your own energy, make it happen. It's about your own energy. I'm unmuting you.
Yeah, that's true. And each person has a responsibility for what they're giving to the universe. If you come into an unloving situation, then you be the one to give the love. If you come across somebody who's rude or mean or impatient, then you be the one that smile and say, oh, well, that's a beautiful dress you have on today, or something that will change their energy. Because all of us are energy. And whatever energy we put forth is what's going to affect the energy around us. So we can be the ones that say the kind word. We can be the ones that give the smile to the person who's frowning. We can be the one that's polite to someone who's rude. And we can see the change in them. So every single moment of every single day, you have an opportunity to give love to a situation and change the energy in the environment. You can change the energy in a whole room. I mean, you ever notice how a comedian, one person can talk to a whole stadium full of people, get everybody laughing, and everybody's upbeat, everybody's happy, everybody's full of joy. One person. So all of us have that same capacity. Be that one person that changes the energy instead of it being a place where people are angry and wanting to fight. We can make people laugh. We can make people feel joy. We can make them happy. We can make them feel good about themselves by the things that come out of our mouths and the way we treat them. So everybody has the power to change the environment in which they live. They can change every single situation they're in. And when you know that, then you live your life consciously that way, and you're conscious of what you say to people. And every single thing that you think, say, and do carries a vibration. And you can feel yourself either going up or down every moment of every day based on somebody says something kind to you. Oh, you look nice today. You have a pretty smile. That brings you up. Somebody says something else mean to you. Oh, well, you sure are. You sure look tired today. Look at those bags under your eyes. So now you're down. People can say anything and bring you up and down all day just based on what they choose to say And you're going to respond. You're going to feel it in your body. You're going to feel the difference every time you encounter somebody. And this has a physical effect. If you have enough negativity, you will get physically ill. And if you monitor yourself and you notice how you're getting sick for a season, just think about the relationships, the people around you, and how they're making you feel. You know that saying, you make me sick? That's a real thing. People get affected by the things they say to you, the unloving things they say to you. They can literally make you sick. So you got to surround yourself by people who will say kind things, and get rid of those friends who always have something negative to say, or put you down, or ridicule your ideas, make you feel bad. Get rid of those people, because they're making you sick.
Well, here's the thing. You and I spoke, and I said, you know, it isn't so much that someone wants to tell me something that's going to be helpful to me. It's how they tell me. So you can say to me, you know, Senabella, you talk too much, and I never feel like I can get anything to say. Like my kids would say, well, you're always talking. I'm going to go that way, right? We'll go that road. And then I'll go, well, I'm giving you the opportunity to speak. You're not speaking, so I'm filling the space. But sometimes we have to recognize what we're doing that can have an adverse effect. So how we say things as well, like telling someone that they have bags under their eyes and they look tired, may be said differently, like, you look as though you're tired. Is there something I can do to help you? That's totally different. You seem to be tired. Are you okay this morning? Asking a person, say, oh, okay. Well, it's just good to see you. I thought maybe you hadn't rested. You know, you seem to be in another thought or something. You have to think about how people are impacted by what you say. And that is a big part of what's happening in this society right now. People are not thinking about how they speak to everyone. Everybody thinks they can just say whatever they want. It's right off the cuff. It's okay. It's okay because I have good intention. Well, you can have good intention, but I might not be met with it.
Yeah, people will say that, that they meant well. They're just trying to help you. But sometimes you have to feel the vibration come down, because vibes don't lie. And, you know, when there's a little bit of hostility, because sometimes people will say things, the motivation might be a little bit of resentment, a little bit of jealousy, you know, all kinds of things. If someone's really trying to help you, there's a spirit that comes with the words that they say, even if it's criticism, but they're trying to help you become better by giving you honest feedback and then positive suggestions, as opposed to tearing you down and making you feel bad, knowing that they're making you feel bad, and then say, oh, I'm just trying to help you. But, you know, feel the vibrations that come with whatever criticism, because if it's really trying to help you, you'll feel that they're trying to help you. And if it's kind of mean spirit, you'll feel that mean spirit too.
Well, so, I think a lot of times it has to do where you are when something comes for you to receive it. You know, we walk out the door prepared to go to the supermarket with bags, but when we get there, you know, doesn't mean that we're going to use the bag. You know what I'm saying? We get there and we'll take the outfit. We can have ratings carrying them out before that's what happens. We have to want to matter. So we do have to think about how we use our message, how we use our voice, what we say, who we're encountering, what their situations are. And we can be sensitive to people being homeless, sensitive to women being beat up in the street. Because I've seen that a lot, and I always interject and go up and say something. Clearly, so whether or not they're going to hit me, I think to myself, well, if you're so bold, you out here beating up, I'm going to be bold enough, and I'm going to go up to you and say, hey, whatever you're doing, you need to stop. And to me, that's the source of love. I can care about you beating her up and her being beaten up at the same time, enough to say that you're doing wrong. I can be upset with a mom cursing her kid out and say to her, think about what I know you're tired, I help you know, and if you say, mind your own business, say, I am minding your business, but you matter. Do you need some help with your baby? And if they say no and they go off, and I've done my part, I don't have to stop protection. But we have to care enough about the things that are going around about us so that we interject, we put ourselves into crisis. Because we're going to have to do it no matter what. We're going to have, in a minute, we're going to have to do it no matter what. It's not just about being prepared for what may come. It's about being prepared for what is right here. What has our deposit of love been, And where is the proof of that? Where is the proof of our love?
And you should definitely see some proof of it based on the willingness to be of help or the willingness to listen. Because if somebody cares about you, they will listen. When they never have any time to, they'll talk your ear off, but then never have time when you need to talk to somebody. How is that loving? So that sometimes showing your love is being willing to listen and hear a person and have some empathy.
There are a lot of times I've been out and I'll see someone who's struggling to get out of a car, and I'll stop and just go and say, "Can I help you?" The caring is what matters. And sometimes they say no because they're untrusting. But we're going to have to change that real soon. I'm just going to say that. We have to change that real soon. This world is asking us to have proof of love. Where is the proof of love?
Right. It's the sometimes
Where's
you help a stranger. And one thing can change your whole life. You never know. Now, my teaching career started from an act of kindness. I was dropping my daughter off at school one morning, and I happened to see the principal pull up in the parking lot. She got out of her car, had 2 big bags. I said, "Well, let me just help her in the building with her bags." So, I offered to help her with her bags. We got to her office, and her secretary came running out saying, "Oh, the 5th grade teacher, he just called in. He got into a car accident. He won't be able to handle his class. And we don't have anybody to cover his class. What should we do?" And the principal looked at me, and she's like, "Well, I know you got a degree in something, but can you cover his class?" I'm like, "Sure." And that started my whole career in teaching at Betty Shabazz International Charter School, where my daughter went to school. And I taught there long after she graduated and everything else, and taught at their other high school that they started, in their other school that they started, Barbara Sizemore Academy and DuSable Leadership Academy. I ended up, being a resident substitute for the whole system, just from that one act of kindness and taking the principal's bags up to her office.
So through our acts of service, right. So through our acts of service, through our acts of love, we're on a course that's taking us through our acts of who we're to be in this life, how we end up serving our purpose-driven lives. How do you find that? Because a lot of times we can have a desire for something and never meet it, right? But it's when we decide to deposit ourselves into something that gives us different instruction that we begin to become illuminated with what it is that we could be the proof of love in our lives for ourselves, therefore feeding the biggest model that exists, and that's who we are as human beings. We're going to take a quick break, and I'm going to come back and wrap it up. Naima, thank you so much. Always such beauty and wisdom and love inside of what you do in your spirit. I want everybody to just show some love to Sister Naima Latif. She is the founder and she is the producer, executive producer, and the reason why we have this opportunity today to come together and coalesce as women and people from all over, not just women, but men and women, and discuss the things that are important in our lives and how we move forward. Our thoughts and our actions don't matter if we don't do something about it. So thank you, Naima.
And thank you all. And I'll see if I can bring you some Facebook Lives from the convention today at Rainbow Push. And remember to love. Thank you so much, Senabella. You always do a fantastic job. We appreciate it.
Oh, wow. Thank you. I'm just trying to show some love. I'm putting my deposit in. Peace and blessings. Thank you, Naima. Look, I am so elated with this opportunity today to discuss love. It shows you what's important. When we listen to others and we begin to see and understand and know what our own thoughts are. So I'll put up here, these are things that are going on that people are doing. We have to want to be a part of life. We have to see life as a part of us. We have to know that what we give is going to be important. We have to know that there is a vibration to everything. This art by Makosi Malik Miller. There's a vibration in everything. There are things that matter everywhere. How are we mattering? Are we giving love? Are we receiving love? See the energy of love. See how it works. When we tell our stories, how it works. When we decide to be a changer. This is to Dr. Frances Cress Wellesley. She became a mirror for exploring and looking at the exploitation of color and what it meant to our society. What are we doing? How are we doing it? What is your deposit of love? So glad you were here. I'm Senabella. This has been the Female Solution. Thank you for coming, everyone. I'll be talking to you again next Friday. See you later. Take care. God, please. Peace, love, blessings. I'm just overwhelmed. I'm happy. Thank you. Peace, love, and blessings. I want to wake up feeling beautiful. I want to wake up with the love in my heart and joy in my eyes. I want to wake up feeling beautiful. I want to wake up feeling beautiful. Beautiful, 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 beautiful. Have a great Friday.
We've come to the end of our show today. If you missed any broadcasts, go to our website for the audio and video archives at www.thefemalesolution.com. On behalf of our team of radio hosts, I'd like to thank all of you who participated in today's discussions. And to our global family joining us from all around the world, we say thank you. To our family in China, xie xie. India, dhanyavad. Japan, arigato. Korea, kamsamnida. Russia, spasiba. Germany, danke. Poland, dziękuję. France, merci. Spain, gracias. Italy, grazie. Egypt, shukran. Ghana, madasi. Nigeria, eshe. South Africa, Ngiyabonga. Senegal, Jaref. Kenya, Asante. Israel, Toda. Pakistan, Shukriya. Afghanistan, Tashakur. Saudi Arabia and Palestine, Shukran. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuhu. Thank you, and may peace be upon you and the mercy of God and God's blessing.